Hi, my name is Suchitra Sivasankaran and I am the founder of an incredible mental fitness brand called Inside&Out. 3, 2, 1. Ready? Ready. And today I'm hosting a South Asian roundtable. It's called Kya Kahenge, an homage to this incredible phrase that every South Asian has had an encounter with. I'm super pumped to be joined by 4 incredible trailblazing women who are not just building empires of their own in their professional stand, but they're also doing incredible work within in order to become the badass, dope versions that they are today. And joining me today is Aleena Khan, co-founder at Citizen Cosmetics, Amrita Singh, stylist and an incredible icon in the fashion world, Jannat Miranda, coming from the world of PR, marketing, fashion, and is also founder of a platform called Club Somewhere, and a podcast host of Respectfully No. And I have Nikita Patel with me, who is the co-founder of a co-working space called The Bureau, which is where we're hosting our roundtable today. South Asians in one room, women, firecrackers, building your own empires, and at the same time, you're working on yourselves. I mean, this is really a moment that I'm kind of trying to pinch myself and feeling really honored that I'm getting to do this. So I wanted to do a bit of storytelling to tie culture and mindset and how deeply we are wired because of our cultural influences, if I may, right? And we do a bit of storytelling around a moment in your life, career-wise or academically, where you've actually taken a decision for yourself that went against the norm. What did that feel like for each one of you? And I kind of wanted a little bit dissect the internal dialogue. Like, what was the Kya Kahenge dialogue happening within? And how did you still do what you intended to do?
One of the first kind of pivotal moments like this where I would say that I didn't go with the herd mentality was when I was in college. I must have been in my 2nd or 3rd year. And I was in an undergrad business school in the US. And it's very kind of normal for a lot of these universities that are quite pre-professional just to churn out a lot of investment bankers and consultants. So, when you're between your 2nd and 3rd year, kind of all these companies come to campus and, you're expected to interview. And then, I would say 80% of the class goes towards those professions. And I remember at the time thinking that this is just not what I want to do with my life. I just feel like I want to do so much more than that. Mm-hmm. I remember you speak to your colleagues or your friends about it, your parents and so on and so forth. And there's part of me at the time that said, just try, maybe maybe everyone's doing this for a particular reason. But the more that I went through that process, I said, actually, the more I was asking people, why are you going into these professions? It was just because everyone else is doing that.
Right.
And so at that point, I decided, I wanted to do something entrepreneurial or in startup or something impact related. Mm-hmm. So I ended up taking an internship at a place called the Women's World Bank, which was a fund for microfinance institutions at the time. It was tough. I remember at the time really doubting myself, saying that am I just being stupid?
Right.
I just, I'm being too idealistic. What will happen if it doesn't go well, So definitely those elements of doubt as well. But in hindsight, I think that was the best thing I could have done. I would say that was my first kind of decision that I made where I really didn't follow herd mentality.
I think the question I have is, what would typically be a solution or an approach you take? Even today, I'm assuming you do have self-doubt, you do have guilt or worrying or overthinking. When a voice like that appears, is there something you tend to do that just allows you to go one step forward?
I think asking yourself the question, what's the worst thing that can happen?
Yeah.
And it's a simple thing, but sometimes when you go down that kind of exercise saying that okay, worst case, X, Y, Z, or maybe you realize actually this isn't a good decision as well.
Yeah.
When you go through that exercise, I would say asking that question.
Absolutely. I love that. Aleena, do you want to share a moment in your life?
Yeah, I think in a personal level, there's so many. I mean, starting with having platinum blonde hair, I think that for our culture really freaked everyone out. And I was like, why can't we literally just express our personalities through things that you can easily change? Nail color, hair color, you can dye it back. You can. I'll never understand to this day why that's the biggest deal. You can literally dye it back.
Oh my God.
But because the question is about career and academics, one that comes to mind is our beauty brand is all about inclusivity in beauty, which means anyone that wears makeup. And if we're being honest about that, it's not only women.
Yeah.
It's also, first of all, different genders, different sexes, different ethnicities, different body types. So I think being a South Asian family where me and my sisters creative directed the first campaign to have 2 guys, like 4 girls, everyone looked different, everyone was dressed different. That was a really big statement.
Absolutely.
And definitely we didn't feel that comfortable in terms of family, friends, our own family members.
Yeah.
What will they think about this campaign? But we wanted to stay true to the message that we were trying to show, that the brand was really for whoever wears makeup. And I think it's moments like that where, to be honest, it is really scary because you're like, how do you separate work from like what your mom feels comfortable with?
Absolutely.
And I think these are real things you have to think about when you're in the industry. And not to say that you're always right every time either, but just that these are real things you consider.
Absolutely.
And yeah.
But when the 3 of you were going through these, let's say, culturally built-in doubts, if I may, or like an inner critic of like, log kya kahenge, but you're still going to do what you're going to do. Like, typically, what would you have told each other? Like, how do you kind of, because that's something everybody goes through, right? I feel like in general with South Asians, or at least more with women in South Asian culture, I feel we tend to play small because we're so concerned with what someone who is completely having zero influence in what we're doing, plus our own family has to say. It's such a big part of who we become. So I want to also like be able to dive into tools or rituals or how you talk to yourself in order to just keep moving ahead, because that is really where the secret is into kind of building a life that you desired.
No, anytime I'm critiqued and I truly practice this, I privately ask myself, are they right or do I agree? And it sounds really simple, but it genuinely helps. You don't have to even admit it sometimes in front of people, but as long as you go home and you think like, oh, was that actually true?
Yeah.
So I think similar to this, I'm like, in my heart, do I feel something's right or wrong?
Absolutely.
And I just do like a gut check, I guess, about that.
Were you always someone who was honoring your intuition or your gut?
I think I didn't know it was gut in the beginning. It started with rebelling because I didn't like being told what to do.
Yeah.
And I didn't like the expectation that came from outward opinions versus what someone just believes is right or wrong. Or good or bad. I didn't like that it was for other people. So I think it started off as, well, why can't I like go platinum or do this or go to Paris for a month? Like, I don't know. It started off like that, but I think now it's not coming from a reaction like that. I think obviously now I'm in my 30s, so it's not as reckless, but no, now it definitely is intuition, but it took time for it to be coming from intuition versus rebellion.
Oh, I love that. Amrita, are you going to tell us a killer story?
I don't know if it's a story or if it's just like this continuous thing throughout my life. I'm wanting to study fashion, and my parents were like, but you know, you could do law. I'm like,
yes.
Sorry, am I allowed to swear?
Yes, you are.
It's not just one story. It's just been continuous throughout my entire life, from studying fashion instead of law and going with that instinct that Alina was talking about. But at the same time, I've always been extremely rebellious and against the grain. So when it came to culture and how you should be as a brown female, I was like, but why? But why? And I kept pushing those boundaries. And then I also saw my own mother push those boundaries because she went off and started her own business and did really well from it.
Wow.
And she was the one that was always like, you know, Amrita, you need to have your own money. And so that was a good guideline, but she was still very traditional and very much like when I met my husband, or when we were dating, it was the extended family circles that would be like, oh, well, you know, she's dating someone. What will people say? And I was just like, I feel like people should just watch their own kids instead of watching me. You know?
So true.
It's so true, but so never done. Oh my God.
So I feel like throughout our lives, we're always going to hear what will people say, but I feel like I've never really cared. I've always been quite a detached person. Maybe that's just the Aquarius in me. I'm a very detached being. So I find it easy to like let go of things and let things flow. Like, you know, whether it's family relationships or friendships, I leave the door open. If someone wants to come back, they can come back. They want to leave, let it leave. So I feel very at peace with that. But it took ages to get there.
Exactly.
It took a while to heal and get to that point.
Absolutely.
So it's about embracing the challenges that come with everything. And 20 years in fashion is no easy feat. From working in London, facing racism, facing, you know, otherness, the passive aggressive comments, the microaggressions, all of that.
Yeah.
And I wasn't ready for any of that when I went to work in fashion.
I wonder, like these inner voices that we have, which do sometimes question the decisions we're making, or to hold us back, or to be worried that I'm making something radical, like you're going to do something super interesting, but there is, I'm assuming, a bit of fear, a bit of like, I call this non-rent paying obnoxious roommate in the journal that is our first baby at Inside and Out, because I feel it's like a roomie that I have with me all the time, but I didn't really allow for it to hang out with me, and I haven't sent it an eviction notice. But I think what I'd like is you now kind of understand how to dial it down, but what would be your general approach to whenever you're doing something new or something radical? How do you talk yourself into saying, I'm going to do it anyway?
I literally don't think about it. If I feel like it's good for me, or I'm in that zone where I'm like, I have this vision and I want to make it come alive, I'm going to just do it. And at the same time, I don't talk myself out of it. The only one thing that sometimes holds me back is procrastination.
Yeah.
Because as a creative, we just procrastinate a hell of a lot, which is terrible.
Yeah.
And then at the last minute, you're like, oh, great, like it's coming.
Yeah.
You can't overthink it. You just have to go for it. And I don't ever see anything as a failure.
Yeah.
So if someone says to you, oh, well, you failed at this, I'm like, no, actually, I learned a lot from it.
Absolutely.
I learned from the challenges, and I fell in love with the challenges.
Yeah.
Because I think we see this end goal, and even when we get to that goal, we're like looking at the next one.
Yeah.
But we forget to look back and go,
I know.
look how far we've come.
Absolutely. No, and that's a great one. I feel like one of the voices in me has always been like, I'm afraid to fail. Like, I won't try a lot of things because I'm afraid to fail. Mm-hmm. But when you have a perspective flip that tells you that failure just implies I tried, and then I got exposed to so many things now that I'll basically never be at that level. I'm going to go and do it now with lots of knowledge or experience. But that flip of perspective for me until then is a voice. I have this voice.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
What does failure look like?
I think in the past, like today, I've started to embrace failure. I kind of want to talk about what I've failed, which means I've tried. But in the past, it felt like somehow, how do you say, I'm cancelled. And whatever it is that I'm trying to do something at, if I failed, I'm basically cancelled, because I was constantly wired growing up in the house that I did that we can't fail. So you don't do something that doesn't have a roadmap of success already hanging out there. So my dad would be like, no, you're going to be an engineer or a doctor because that's what's going to pay your bills, and that's what's going to make you be in a certain place, doing a certain thing, have a certain value in society. So anything else that my intuition also would have said, well, I'm afraid to fail. I'm crippled by that fear of being a nobody.
So basically, I feel like what I'm getting from that is that there's so much focus on being perfect and being correct and doing the right things all the time that we're not allowed to learn or go through challenges, which is not realistic
at all.
I don't think, for any
and
of
it's
us.
like you're not even having a human experience because of that. I feel like until the point, I really call the pivot prior to that as autopilot. It's not that life was anything lesser. It's just I think I was running a pre-program that, assures that I live a good life. But I genuinely feel I've been sleepwalking through a lot of things because that's just how it was handed down to me. And you're doing fine societally. People look at you and they think you're thriving, but it's the dialogue within, right? The dialogue within, in my case at least, was so deprecating that it took me a moment in my life to understand that I don't have to win at life by suffering. I would like to, kind of embrace what I want and what my intuition says. So that's why I kind of like that. What do you say to your inner critic, or whether you feel like an imposter or you doubt yourself? Because I feel it's something I hear across women, but also I feel South Asians, we're programmed to people please. We're programmed to sometimes, don't say no.
But I was just going to say, being afraid to fail so heavily is linked to being South Asian. Because it comes from like this immigrant mentality from our parents who a lot of times like left their home country, migrated to the West, had more to prove. And then that gets passed down. So it's like, even us focusing on it this much comes back to identity.
100%.
Yeah.
That's why, I think it took me a while to realize how deeply it's all tied to culture, right? Because you're unpacking your mindset, you realize, wow, this is a lot of emotional baggage that I'm carrying. But it's also so deep-rooted to what I've been hearing since I was a kid, and that is my norm. And I even judge people for like, yeah, why would you do that? You're going to fail. And it's because it's coming from within. It's just a projection. But that's why I think nowadays I'm more curious on what do people do to dial it down, because you do it anyway, right? And that to me is living a full life. Like if I give it a shot on whatever it is I feel like, that's you living a full life.
Yeah, I agree. But I also, just from what you were saying before, I feel like as within the culture, South Asian people, especially if you're of the diaspora, you know, coming from a Punjabi community in the UK,
Yeah.
where everyone knows each other.
Wow.
You know, you live in a place where everyone is connected somehow. I feel like everyone somehow is programmed as South Asians to suffer. So we're programmed as South Asian women. We're programmed already from like when we're young and everything that we see going forward. And growing up back then, I feel like things are different now.
Yeah.
But back then, it was like that tick box life, having the perfect job,
Yes.
having the house, the husband, the children, the car, the whatever.
Yes.
And for me, like one of the biggest decisions I've made is I don't want children.
Yeah.
So but that's a whole other reasoning and topic and everything. But all of that tick box life sounds like suffering to me.
I think that awareness, I don't know, for me, it's like game changing. Like coming into that awareness and then choosing what lights you up. I think that is life to be fully lived.
If you can't love yourself, how are you supposed to love your children or your husband or your family? Because if you're hating everything that you do,
yes,
you're not going to be a good figure in society in general. You're not going to be any good to anyone.
Yeah.
So I think it's about, from seeing the journal and going through, I'm like, this is all about self-love.
Absolutely. It's coming from a freaking painful place. Like I literally, once you see the light, I'm like, where have I been all these years? Jannat.
Not that different to actually what Amrita said.
Yeah.
You know, both of us, I think, we're both creatives. I come from the fashion industry as well. And I moved to Dubai when I was 6 months. And again, very similar. And I didn't know that, you know, we had similar backgrounds. But my mom also, massive overachiever, always pushed me to, you know, step outside the box and do things that I wasn't even good at. You know, she just wanted me to be an all-rounder being.
Yeah.
You know, after school every day, there were like a million classes. There was not a single second where I was, you know, there was either dance or tennis or basketball and like arts and crafts. And like, you know, I would literally wake up in the morning to go to school and I'd come back in the evening and like I'd be in bed like exhausted, like as though I've come from war. You know, so I think and we were speaking about this earlier, I think the generation that we've grown up in, like us 90s kids, the expectation that our parents, I think, had from us is probably and is obviously what their parents passed down to them. You know, they wanted them to be overachievers because, you know, the cycle just goes on and on and on. It's like a hamster in a cage. I still have low Kya Kahenge moments. I it's not stopped.
I think we all do.
And I don't think it's ever going to stop. My low Kya Kahenge moment, the first one was when I got my belly button pierced. You know, Lena was talking about getting your hair done. And I got my belly button pierced when I was 18. I was in Cambridge at summer school with my best friends. And it was the summer that I decided when I turn 18, I'm going to get a piercing, you know, and just for no one, just for me. You know, I don't post bikini photos or, you know, also I was huge growing up, but that was besides the point. It was just, wanted to do it for myself. It was like my little tick mark, you know, done. And I did it. And of course, my mother like almost behaved like I went and married like an alien, you know. It was like, how could you do something like this? And I was like, it's a piercing. It can come out, you know. So that was one. Then the second one, you know, not following into the family business, doing fashion, going down the fashion route. And then obviously launching my own agency and not following through with being in the family business. Not working out of the family office. This is where my first office was.
Wow.
So a lot of big steps. I think there were a lot of, you know, like, how can you do this on your own? And which clients are going to, you know, come to someone that's a one-woman agency. And, you know, I was like, I'll do it. I will do it and I will make it happen and I will pay my rent and I will pay my employees. But I think those are all kind of moments that you owe to yourself. And I learned that along the way because, and I always say this, and I know this is on camera, but I call my mom Hitler. And really. And my nanny knows this. And I always tell her she's adopted or either I'm adopted. So it still goes on till this day. She expects the world, you know, and I always think, about this in my own, if I were to have my own child tomorrow, of course I want my kid to be amazing. We all want our kids to be the best student and get, all the A stars, but I want them to be their version of the best.
Yeah.
My low Kya Kahenge moment, happened when I started dating a boy who was 2 years younger than me, who's now my husband.
Yeah.
So, I didn't care much back then, don't care much now. And the voice that, is always going to be in our heads as South Asian women will never go away.
Yeah.
We live with those voices. There are relatives, there are family members, there are friends, there are colleagues.
That was non-parents.
You can't shut it off. I wish you could. I wish it was a radio that you could just be like swapped to like Virgin or something. It doesn't work like that. But whether it's not someone that social media, post something, someone's going to comment. There's not only nice people on the internet, there are mean people. Not everyone's nice and says nice things. And I feel like, especially coming from the fashion and creative world, we're told to be creative and express our craft through our sort of self. And that's why I launched my podcast, because it came down to a point where it was getting exhausting to having to explain myself to people. All my friends were getting married at one point, and I was still the bridesmaid. And, every Indian auntie at every wedding was like, don't worry, beta. It's that. I'm like, you don't fucking worry. Like, go eat your food. So it was always like, what is your problem?
Or worry about your dog.
Worry about that skank Priya, sorry Priya, love you. I don't know who Priya is. I have no idea who Priya is.
Shout out, Priya.
Whoever you are, Priya. I feel like Priyas are the Karens of the Indian world. There's always some Priya in the world.
I have a cousin called Priya. She's all right.
Sorry, or maybe it's a puja. Maybe it's a puja. Like
puja,
every
what is
puja,
this?
yeah. Oh yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Puja, not Priya. So that's what I should.
Oh my god.
Everyone needs to chill the out.
Yeah.
Do your thing.
Yeah.
Let us do our thing. You're gonna mess up. I'm gonna mess up, and no one's perfect. So let us just be these
I love
perfect little nobodies.
What
Imperfect nobodies.
What happened to just minding our own business?
I know. Oh my God. It's like, I do feel like though.
You do know we're
You're
South
saying-
Asian.
Yeah.
It's like
mind their own
business.
business. Actually, that never happens.
It's a part of our DNA. I think you're really not meant to just mind your own business.
We ourselves don't mind our own business.
I definitely do. I feel like I definitely do.
All of us do in our own.
So now that we're all here in this room, like what one uncomfortable truth do you think we avoid speaking?
I don't think it's us four girls sitting in here because I think we're all more on the same page, but I think it's people are so envious of the ones that do get to live more freely and more open-mindedly.
Yeah.
And I think like that is so deep and real in our community. It's really sad. And so most times when you're being judged, they're just projecting their own, honestly, like maybe misery that they cannot live as openly.
Yeah.
And they actually want it so bad. It's more of like a desire in them that's like manifesting as jealousy, but it's actually showing them it's something they wish they could do. So I think a lot of times we should remember that too when they're judging us.
Yeah.
They maybe don't get the chance to move across the world or tie their hair or whatever.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times that's...
Alina, I really want you to tie your hair.
I am going back to blonde hair. No, now it was too much maintenance, but no, I love having lighter hair, but I swear that was such a thing years ago.
I know.
Which is ridiculous.
And also doing your eyebrows.
Yeah.
What?
Oh my God.
I mean, I don't know. I was allowed to do my eyebrows when I was 16, and I was like, why? I look like George from the jungle. Why would you not want me to look presentable? So, no, girls at your age. Why?
Oh my God. I remember having a moment where my dad actually was so offended, and I was like, I didn't even tell you. Like, I told my mom, and he was super offended when I came home. He's like, why did you do what you did to your face? And I was like, what do you think I did? He's like, I don't know, but why did you do what you did to your face? Because it looks so different. And I think he couldn't handle it. And he's like, why are you doing all these things? And I was like, oh my God, I had the bushiest brows ever. Yeah. And they were kind of joining in the middle. And I was like, I want to get
now
this
it's in. So it's kind
Yeah, that's so in now. That's like,
late.
you're
Now the
so
hair is-
gifted if you have a
Like,
unibrow.
it was great
You are
to be
God's
South
child.
Asian.
Kajal had the unibrow.
Yeah.
In DDLJ has
Yeah.
in DDLJ, and she was like seen as like the most perfect, beautiful.
That's true.
Iconic.
That movie is my favorite.
It was too late. I already did my brows by then. It was
It's fine.
like the memo
They
came
grow
a bit-
back. They'll grow.
Okay, no. An
So-
uncomfortable truth that as a community
Yeah.
we refuse to talk about.
I think that like gender norms are still very much like a thing. Even though like we come from, at least the four of us, I believe like quite progressive, like backgrounds, and I can speak for myself where, you know, I do have a very progressive family, very progressive in-laws and husband, but at the end of the day, like, I'm definitely the one that is taking the baby to like the doctor when the baby's sick, you know? Definitely, it's with every stage of life, I feel like there's more and more like norms that you kind of fall into naturally. So the first is marriage, and then the second, in my case, is having a child.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but it's just, I mean, I think as a woman, like, you hold a lot of like burden and on every aspect. So I guess now we work a lot, you know, like women, especially South Asian women, like we have such cool entrepreneurs, builders, creators. But at the same time, like at home, you're also kind of a wife and a mother, you know? So it's just, we have it as a privilege, but at the same time, it's just a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
You know? We just don't like
talk about it.
acknowledge
Yeah,
enough
we don't
necessarily.
acknowledge it enough. You're so right. We don't talk about it. We're like, yeah, we've progressed enough to let our women work or do things outside of the house, but we haven't talked about where is the rebalance.
You know, just that phrase upsets me. Like, we've let our women work. Like, that gives me...
Let us. Love that. And it's such a truth. And I feel like the weight that you're talking about is invisible, right? Like, you're carrying that load, but it's not visible to anyone outside. It's just within, and you're holding yourself accountable for these invisible set of, like, somehow it's like a job description that's been handed down to us without even signing a 0 bonus and 0 salary letter. It's like, hey, it's just going to come down, like, take it.
It's called, it's like basically invisible work, like the whole concept of like invisible work that you don't get like necessarily paid for it.
Yeah.
You don't, it's not nothing, anything that's like acknowledged. It's not something that's like, visible from the rest of the world. But at the same time, you have to do it.
Yeah.
And this term I learned recently that it encapsulates like the state of my mind right now. It's called mom brain.
Yeah.
And mom brain is not like that you forget things because like you're just out of it because of having a child. It's because you're constantly thinking of like all the logistics of the things you have to do at home, all the logistics of like having a child and like where they have to be at a certain time and making sure everything's stocked up for them and, you know, just making sure that they're like healthy and alive.
Yeah.
So it's like mom brain is actually like just as women, how we constantly have like logistics and like operations that we handle in every aspect of life that are like in parallel.
I know. I mean, you know, it's so ironic, like being woman, even if being a woman, I remember during COVID, that was the time I wrote my mom a love letter because I was like, managing the inventory in the refrigerator was such a nightmare and I hated that every day. I'm like, shit, the potatoes grew shit out of it, or like onions are over, or like again, that stuff is over. And then my husband would constantly ask me, Suchi, do we have any milk today? Do we have any? And I was like, why do I have to have an answer for that? Like, we are stuck, locked down together. And then I wrote my mom a letter because I was thinking, this is like a full-time project manager role. Like, she's running the kids that are dynamic and growing, a husband who is like, you know, has his own tantrums and looks after like the house bills and looks after like the ironing and the laundry and the running of the house. And this is incredible. And you have no incentive but supposedly love from all of these family members. And I was like, this is a full-time job. Like, I think in the future, I would love if there was some sort of a description to say, hey, you're going to be playing both of these and I'd like to honor it. I don't know what the token would be, but it is an unspoken, also like there is a way to value us in the career space. We don't have a way to value besides, yes, I see my children grow up and be amazing. But other than that, I think you don't have any kind of milestone recognition and you just carry it silently and we don't talk about it in most rooms. So yeah, it's a big one. And I want to applaud you for, you know, doing all that you do.
All our moms, I think.
All our moms are given. Oh my God, all our moms are freaking martyrs. I think that's inappropriate. That's on them. I don't know why they had to take it to that level.
But we turned out okay.
And sometimes they let you know about it too.
Oh, that's a good one.
Sometimes they let you know about it.
That's good if they do. Like my mom, I wish she let us know every now and then. She just never did. She was just like...
I think there's a fine line in letting your kid know
and not guilty.
I'm not, yeah, like, you know, I'm just gonna have water. I think it comes from a place of, you know, when you have a high achieving parent who obviously wants a very high achieving kid,
absolutely,
the expectation is you owe your success to me.
Yeah.
You know, or sometimes it could be you are who you are because of me.
Yeah,
that's
totally.
And,
that's a lot of pressure.
Sometimes, I mean, I've gone through it, but I think now realizing being in my 30s, and I love being in my 30s. I think it's so humbling to be able to say it back to a parent and say, thank you for raising me to be who I am.
Yeah.
You know, like,
we need a moment for that. It's actually the truth though, yes.
And also being proud of who you are because of you too.
Yeah, and it's nowadays, there was a phase where I think as I started to work on myself, I had that, you start discovering things and then you're angry and then you have this like, I don't know, I had this newfound anger on like, why do you say that to me? Or why do you not encourage me when I want to do something? Or like, I'm not taking like failure is an option as a discussion. I want to discuss that I want to do something. So let's have that conversation. But then you realize after you like continue to work on yourself that they're doing the best of what they know, right? They don't know what they don't know. And I didn't know it too until I've now started to unpack that. I wanted to like, take this down to relationships, because I feel like with South Asian communities, there's one thing that we always talk about, where beta shadi kar le, sab kuch theek ho jayega, shadi ke baad sab theek ho jayega. Oh, are you doing all of this, but are you married yet? Like, this is a very $1 million question in our community. Like, shadi nahi hui, so then, you're sort of like,
Alina, shadi nahi hui?
Guys, give me the slack now. Let's
dare you, Alina.
I've already prepared my answer.
No, kya kahenge, Alina.
And so, I have brought myself here today.
Please go sit with Pooja.
And the thing is that what I've found interesting is how much of your mantra of success to a woman in the South Asian community is associated with you being married, getting married, then being married and keeping it, like staying in it.
Oh, you got married? Oh, you stayed in the marriage? That's like good job. Wow.
So I kind of want to ask that, I've felt that this heaviness around relationships led me in the past, I think, to like play small, to kind of please, to kind of fit in. So you're not disrupting this setup, because this setup is very essential for me to also say, I'm doing good. Like I am that perfect desi girl, and that tick box is happening. What moments in your life have you guys like caught yourselves like pleasing to stay in a relationship or trying to be in one because you know it's such a big part of our tick boxes?
I might not be in a relationship after this if I start saying what I had to do.
Or just any kind of storytelling that you've started to notice that that's not how you want to attract someone. And yes, those of us who are married, I'm assuming that through our marriage, like I have grown a lot through my marriage. I don't think I came in this way. I got married super young. So I feel like who I've become is also largely because of my marriage, because, your partner reflects so much of who you are. And you also start to ask that, why am I okay with certain things? Why am I letting myself feel that, oh, he's so kind, he's doing this. And I'm like, this is not a place for permission. We are equal partners.
Much like you, my husband and I are best friends.
Yes.
Number one, like he is my number one cheerleader, supporter. He encourages me with everything. He is the perfect dog parent. He is like a really good dog dad. But he is just so nurturing and so caring. And I feel like if I didn't have him, I don't know what kind of person I'd be with. And this is my perfect person. We've been married almost 12 years.
Yes.
So I think that that's important. But I've also noticed that in brown culture, especially in our parents' generation, a lot of the people stayed together.
Yeah.
Despite having a really horrible marriage or not loving each other or having an arranged marriage and it not working out. No one had the balls to be like, I choose my happiness. And you saw the women in that generation shrinking themselves.
Yes.
And because I was always a rebel, I was always like, no, but why? But why do I have to do that? And I don't want to do that. And I'm not going to. You can't make me. And the expectations that come now are like, I'm so, you don't have children? I'm so sorry. I'm like, I'm not. I don't want them. I have a dog. She is my daughter.
Absolutely. Cheers to that.
And I think it's about living life on your own terms rather than feeling like you ever have to shrink to please society, whether that is your own family, your in-laws, whoever, some random auntie. And I've had this before. I remember it was just post-COVID and we were all working from home, and a friend of mine, her brother-in-law was getting married in Dubai, and she said, please come to this event.
Yeah.
So my husband and I, we go to this event, and I'm kind of like loitering because I don't know anyone. And she introduces me to these two aunties over from the UK as well. And they're obviously much older than me, and they're looking me up and down. They're like, so you married? Yeah. What do you do? Tell them that they don't get it. They're like, oh, okay. And then they're like,
It's so real.
I know. It's so weird. We've been brought up in different parts of the world, and it's so real.
and they still come here and ask me the same question.
Yeah.
And then she says, do you have children?
Yeah.
I said, no, I don't want children.
Yeah.
Why don't you have why don't you want them? It was offensive to her that I didn't
Yeah.
have children. And I love how she was like, but you work from home, so you do have time. Excuse you? Who is going to take care of
But
the
also, why are you doing this at a wedding?
Yeah.
Like, what?
I'm like, she
Aren't you
didn't
all
know
done?
that.
It was literally like
You don't
in
even
the
go
it was like, you're not even from here, mind your business. Like you're not even in my
The buffet is over there.
yeah. I was at this point, I'm looking around, I'm like, I don't know what to do. And I was like, I really need to pee. And I was out.
That's the best answer to most things.
It's just so interesting how we've all had it, and it's been like a narrative of all our lives. Like I just love that it's a universal South Asian truth. Alina, you.
There's so much to say on this topic. I think the first one that I just think it's hilarious that South Asians pretend they don't date. It's like, can we first
Oh my God.
start off by admitting
In the
we don't date, we have a boyfriend.
Yes, we've all done.
We've had an arranged marriage.
Because we've been
All not had
conditioned.
boyfriends when we were 14.
Exactly. Like, we've been conditioned to be so shameful of life.
I
experiences.
swear. Oh my
Let's
god.
just start there. And it's just like,
True.
yeah,
No.
it's very brown coded to engagement pic, and you didn't even know they were dating. And I understand like where it comes from, but
Yeah.
it's just kind of like, can we also just be more real about our personal lives? Like it's normal.
Exactly.
And I think another reflection is me realizing not everyone is also looking for love when they think of marriage. I
Yeah.
think a lot of conversations I hear, I'm like, it's so interesting. It's actually not everyone's end goal to necessarily find romance and love.
Yeah.
And I think that's also helpful because not everyone is even getting married for the same reason.
Yeah.
And I think it's all about the friends and people you're around. And I feel like that's what I've really realized recently is what is the advice you're getting? Because
Yeah.
I swear there's half of it that's like, what are you doing? Like, go back to that. It's like,
Yeah.
what? I don't want to be around people that would tell me that. I want people that be like, it's great you walked away from something that wasn't the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be around people that are like, yeah, like it'll take time and you'll get over it. But if all you need is to find one person, it's like, take your time finding that one human.
Exactly.
It's a lot to think about your whole life with one. And I would want it to be with one. So it's like, if it's going to be that, it
Yeah.
has to be great. Because we're all great.
No, 100%. But I have like deeper questions, because today, like with getting to know ourselves, and I love that. I think that's one of the highlights of today, that we're thriving on the external hustle piece of it, but we're also thriving internally, right? And that to me, I feel like that intersection, that sweet spot is where peace is hanging at, or like contentment or inner love. I kind of want to ask you that when people start to flip the perspective, like you want to find that one person. So like don't settle or don't listen to, but let's say your existing tribe has not really started to, look within, or their perspective is still the old programming. And many people don't necessarily understand, self-love, I feel, is a term that's thrown around a lot, but it's also misunderstood as just saying things to yourself in the mirror or being very superficial about it with, having a day to go to the spa or like taking care, which is all great. But I think the real love is when you're wanting to get to know you, like you passionately and persistently want to know someone you're looking to find for yourself. So what would you say to people whose current tribes may almost start to somehow diss you because you're suddenly like, you have a flippant perspective, you kind of want to own your space?
What I would advise to girls that have friends with old programming is you have to correct them. So the other day I actually had to say to a friend, like, oh, I actually don't see it that way. I think you're projecting like your fears onto me. And it is awkward to say, but the real ones will get it. And secondly, have a friend outside your culture. Like if you need to start that basic, genuinely that helps.
Yeah.
You need to have someone that you feel like is a safe space that maybe doesn't know your parents. You don't have family friends involved. Just start with a safe space, someone that doesn't know anyone you know.
Yeah.
And get different advice. Different perspectives is different upbringing, different cultures, all of that.
Those are such good tips to take. Nikki, we could start with you. What was your relationship with money growing up, and where are you with it now? Because I do feel that a lot of our, general narrative around relationships is you have to get married, and once you get married, we're kind of more encouraging of women to be at home. And I still have friends whose partners are insistent that they have to stop working after they get married. And then there is no dialogue again in our community. The uncomfortable truths is you don't talk about money management after that. And so someone lands up staying in relationships because you're financially tied in an unfortunate space with kids and all the complexities that come with that. So I think money and South Asian women, we should be talking about it all the time, and all kinds of things you could do and invest and manage your own, portfolios independent of love.
I was grateful, and me and my sister both, we were grateful that both of our parents, they had very different money mindsets, which I'll get into. But what they were aligned on is that us as girls, we need to earn our own money, and we need to manage our own money.
Yeah.
So that's really important in terms of independence, and you're not relying on anyone for anything.
Yeah.
Whether it's your husband in the future, whether it's in-laws, whether it's whatever it is. I think going back to our childhood, so I guess my dad was on one end of the spectrum. My mom was on the other end of the spectrum. So our dad is definitely very generous with money, to the extent that when we were growing up, when my sister, it was her birthday, I got a gift as well.
Yeah.
So saying that this is how he showed love and was very kind of, I would say, liberal in that sense. On the other hand, my mom was definitely the one that reeled it in, So saying that having a good head on your shoulders is important in terms of money, only, spend within your means, so on and so forth. So I think we kind of set in the middle.
Yeah.
But one thing that I guess now moving into a relationship, now my marriage, something that both me and my husband were very clear on is this is a conversation we have before we get married. And I learned recently that that's not very common.
Yeah.
Especially in South Asian cultures. No, you don't talk about money.
You don't talk about money, yeah.
And that's something that I guess is taboo in a sense, but we spoke about everything. Who's going to earn what? Who's going to be responsible for what? Are we doing joint expenses, shared, whatever it is, So every
topic of money
that was considered taboo, we discussed before. And I think that's how it should be.
That's how it should be.
To avoid any, I mean, if you can't talk about something like money, how can you have an honest marriage going forward? Because that forces you to have difficult conversations. That forces you to just talk about your roles in a marriage as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're very privileged, and so that's really helped in terms of being able to do what you want. You can build businesses because you have that security net.
Absolutely.
So to speak, But at the same time, now when I'm thinking about money with my daughter, it's now a whole different conversation because we live in a different world.
Yeah.
It's a really important conversation.
I love that.
And this is the one topic that is the biggest breaker of marriages.
I
it's
swear.
The concept of money.
I mean, there's actually research that says I think it's the number one and number two reason that people actually tend to fall apart. I think number one is actually religion, and number two is money, and then I think number three is parents, or your respective family. How each one of us, being South Asian, but we've been brought up in different parts. You in Dubai, you in London, you in LA largely, you in Dubai, me in Muscat. Was there ever a point in your life where you didn't want to be recognized or identified as South Asian? Yeah.
No, but in certain environments, you were pushed to not embrace your culture as much.
Yeah.
In the workspace, if you did, I remember I was working in this agency in London when I just graduated. I remember this girl was like, oh, so, now that you've graduated, do you need to get married straight away? And this is people who are white, not understanding. They're so do you have to only eat curry every day? All of these stupid little things. And they kind of make you feel inadequate at the time. And you're well, maybe I don't fit in, or maybe I'm not.
Yeah.
And when you're that young and influenced by what's going on, and, you want to prove yourself in this new workspace, and you want to make something of yourself, and you want to be taken seriously, and then you have that, you're almost oh, maybe I need to whiten up, And then I realized very quickly, actually, no, my culture is abundant. And, we were raised by pretty much a whole village. We didn't have just our parents and a house help. We had everyone. We had our grandparents, we had aunts, we had uncles. We had so much abundance in tradition and culture and music and our weddings, our celebrations, So I think to feel like that wasn't a cool thing didn't feel cool to me. And so now I'm a lot more vocal about we need to put South Asian heritage up here and be proud of it and talk about the shitty things that we face. but also all the amazing things that happen.
Oh my God. Yes, I love that.
I mean, I just want to, just what she said as well. Firstly, never been a moment in my life where I've not felt proud of being South Asian. I think I take pride, at least, in my roots in my country, and especially in Dubai, where you live in a city where every second person speaks better Hindi than Arabic. And touch wood, I think we've all been blessed to go to schools and have international friends and then go abroad to college and then also have international friends. But then when you come back home, the sense of still feeling Indian and you know, I guess your culture is where you are. You know, you take it where you go. And I think that that's something that we should always try and instill and be proud of, no matter what happens in life.
Oh, and I love that. I love that era of South Asians today.
But I do agree that there was a time, where people would be like, "Oh, you live in Dubai? Is that in Saudi?" And I'm like, "Have you looked at a map?" Like, there was this whole thing where
my sister went to university in Texas A&M, and somebody asked her at school that, "Oh, you studied in Dubai, so did you go to school on a camel?"
Yeah, that's common.
And I was like, okay, that's a long time ago, but still, it is.
But it actually wasn't very long ago.
Yeah,
not a very long time.
And also, do you have MTV? Do you know what MTV Cribs is or whatever? And I live in a mud hut.
Or even much later in my life, when I went to work in the US, I was asked your English is amazing.
Oh, that still happens now.
I got that yesterday.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
But that happens even now. My husband doesn't. He's fair.
Yeah.
Much more lighter skin compared to me.
Yeah.
And when we go to Bombay and we're at immigration, the immigration officer looks at my passport and he stamps it and he lets me go.
Yeah.
And then he'd look at him and he'd be like, and then he'll speak in Hindi and he'd be like, oh, this Gora speaks Hindi. And so what I mean is have you not looked at your own country map? There are people that are fair-skinned as well in your own country.
Oh so true.
So I think sometimes we shit on our own selves.
No, you're so right.
To be real as well, with some of the not positive sides, I went to high school here to British high school. I will say that people mask racism in humor. So it's why is everyone so comfortable mocking a Desi accent when they're not South Asian? And so I feel I do notice things like that where I think in high school, being in a school like that, it's undertone. So I wouldn't say it's blatant. I loved the school and I love the people, but it's things you realize later in life.
Yeah, you're so right.
Where it's kind of that actually wasn't okay. And they didn't really make me feel necessarily great for being South Asian.
Exactly.
And it was seen as lower.
Absolutely.
And today someone would phrase it as, that was trauma. You were traumatized.
I was traumatized.
That was trauma.
But yeah, and that's why I think I really make it a point to always say I'm ethnically Pakistani if I'm doing something for Citizen, an interview or something.
Yeah.
And it's not I have to. And my dad's always I don't get it. Why do you keep talking about that? You've never lived that. I'm like, no, but you need to actually own it because we need more examples of people that are proud of it.
Yeah.
And I am proud of it. And I actually would rather emphasize on it than not because it's we should see cool females doing creative things from that culture.
No,
you know what I mean? So I actually make it a point even when I don't need to talk about it.
No, and I love that.
But I agree. I say the same.
Right?
Whenever
all the time.
if I have to introduce myself anywhere, I'll always say I'm Indian.
Yeah.
I live in Dubai. I mean, to each their own, but there are also people that I've come across that will say, I'm American. And I'm like, but your name's Naresh.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not.
Yeah.
Where are you from, Naresh?
I love that you're always specific.
Sorry.
You really from.
So we can identify.
It's
a personal
Marry them off. Send them to some island somewhere.
No, but exactly.
Those are your inner voices. That's what you're calling them henceforth. You're like, shut up, Suresh. Fuck off, Google.
Actually, my dad's name is Suresh.
No, that's Suresh. Go back to Naresh.
We'll go back to Naresh.
Go back
Naresh is good.
Okay, wait. If any of you went through the journal, I want to ask you one page or one concept or something that stayed with you from the journal, making the invisible visible.
It was where the 10,000 steps a day, but in terms of mental fitness.
PQ reps.
Yeah. I thought that was so smart because we are so connected with our body, but less connected with our mind.
Absolutely.
So just putting it in terms of frame of reference, in terms of gym terms, or, physical fitness terms, just really kind of helps to relate it well to your mental fitness.
I love that, Alina.
Yeah, the obnoxious roommate. I love the rent-free roommate that's living in our head. It's so true. And
now we know Pooja and Suresh. No, Naresh. Naresh, I'm sorry.
Pooja.
But I actually love it because it also shows you have the power, like you said, to evict them.
Yeah.
So I think when you're in control is the most empowering.
Absolutely.
I was going to say the same, the obnoxious roommates. I think it's a brilliant concept
I love that.
because so many people deal with anxiety and people pleasing and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's a great way to identify what they are.
And
But
then
what I took away was just taking the time to be kinder to yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
Oh my God, yes. I love it. So that's a wrap.
Amazing! Yay!
thank you for having us.
Yeah, seriously,
so
Suchitra.
fun.
This was so nice.
This is so
really
needed,
fun.
this kind of
I
conversation.
swear. And I feel like